Vice President, President Michelson.
Here. Okay. Mary has a flag conveniently posted in the background. So, and a secondary flag.
Yes.
We can all rise and pledge allegiance. Ken, why don't you lead? I stumble on the words sometimes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you.
Amen. You're welcome.
Absolutely. So, do we have any public comment? Okay. Hearing none, we can move to consent calendar. And Director Feldman, this was your month.
Right, I reviewed the costs and the payables and found everything to be in order.
Good, thank you. Do we have any other directors wish to pull or discuss anything? Otherwise, we could vote for it whole. Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion to accept the minutes.
Okay, so do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Denise again, please.
Director Feldman.
Yes.
Director Larimer.
Yes.
Director Coverdale.
Aye.
Vice President Reynolds.
Yes.
President Michelson.
Yes, thank you. Okay, meetings attended, director comments? Anyone?
None for me.
So this will be a quiz if anyone's really been paying attention. I'm sure Kathleen is very well aware, but at Bosca, we decided not to enter into the multi-party Las Vaqueras expansion project. So the Bosca members decided really it wasn't worth their time. However, San Francisco will be pursuing it. So that was really about the biggest news at Bosca. For those following the dollars and cents, again, Kathleen, you were probably well aware of this. The balancing account, we used $4 million to pay down the balancing account, which will keep our rates low by prepaying. Anyhow, so that was it at Bosca. Other than that, litigation is just going to drag on for who knows, a year or two. Patrick, you probably know better than I, but it's not going anywhere. The Bay Delta plan, so it's very, very slow roll there. Okay, so no other directors. We can move into general business then, please. And that would be Mary, I assume.
Okay. So before the first item will be to do the public hearing, but before we start with the public hearing, I'm going to give a brief presentation, and Sanjay will give a brief presentation. So I'm going to share my screen. And let me get this.
Oh, yeah, it's working.
Second, let's get this going. Okay, and I believe right now, Denise, we don't have any public in the attendee.
No, they're just 4 attendees, and that's
which are
mostly us.
Us, yes. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to do a quick overview of where we're at right now. So in arriving at the the rate increases that are being proposed today, that staff and board spent numerous hours preparing and reviewing the background data that supports the recommendations. So, work actually began in late 2019 with Sanjay Gar and Lauren Demeen of Rathkel's Consultants who are on. So we, over the course of months, we had 4 finance meetings, we had 4 facilities meetings, and on March 10th, we had our first rate study workshop with Ralph Tellis. And at that workshop, the board authorized preparation of a notice of public hearing for a July 1st, 2020 increase for 6.5% effective July 1st of 2020, and another 6.5% for July of 2021. So within a few days, the pandemic happened. And so we ended up having a special board meeting on April 3rd, and the board decided to postpone any further rate discussions to the July board meeting. So in between there, we continued to work on our budgets, and we approved our 2020, 2021 O&M budget in June, our CIP in July. And so at our July 14th regular board meeting, we had another rate study discussion and workshop with Sanjay Gar, and the board authorized at that meeting to issue another public hearing, notice of public hearing with changes in the rates. Given COVID and what was going on, we have the increase was up to 5%. And also in terms of, we changed the effective date given COVID to January 1st, 2021, and the next increase January 1st, 2022. So this represents basically a 6-month delay up front of any rate increase. So we mailed the notices on August 21st. And we're coming on today as October 13th for the day of the public hearing. We also, by the way, had Kathleen prepared a lot of public outreach, and we published in the review 2 notices. So with our increases, just a reminder that we're really, we're covering our revenue requirement, which is a combination of what our O&M budget is, our debt service, and our CIP. And ultimately, those go into a financing plan, and Sanjay will explain this in a little bit more detail in a few minutes. We started off with the O&M budgets. Our 2021 budget, we actually had forecasted a lower amount of water sales, largely due to a loss of a major customer. Bay City Flowers, but also in terms of estimates for downward revenue due to COVID. And then our operating expenses were a little higher in 2020, 2021 due to the fact that we had little rainfall in the spring. So we're unable to use our local sources this fall, up until it rains again, likely late November, December timeframe. So then we also had prepared a 2021-22 budget. This really represents the budget that Sanjay and Lauren utilized. They basically applied inflation factors. We did have some recovery of water revenue in terms of use, but all the other cost adjustments basically represent inflationary adjustments that Sanjay and Lauren used in the model. So in terms of, just a reminder of our water district, for those who may watch this later, we have a fairly, complex water district, even though we're small. We serve a population of 19,000, 7,600 connections. For a small water district, we have 2 water treatment plants. We districts over the hill don't have that. And we're the only member of BOSCA and the wholesale water customers at SFPUC who treats our own water. So that's an increased cost over what other water agencies have to bear. We have 10 water tanks. We have the Crystal Springs pump station, 80 miles of pipeline, and 20 miles of transmission mains. We do it all with our wonderful employees who are very dedicated and also our key assets, our team at the water district.
I just want to interrupt for just one second. Thank you, Mary, for addressing that. The 2 letters I read today did compare our water rates to over the hill water districts, and they are indeed resellers of San Francisco water. They are not operating water treatment plants. So thank you for including that.
Okay. So one of the key pieces that drives our rates is our capital improvement program. So as we look out to the next 10 years, our program right now stands at 45 million versus 36 million that we spent in the last 10 years. So as we look at upcoming projects, we have the Nunes Water Treatment Plant Improvement Project, which we're estimating right now to be about $7.6 million. The Nunes plant was originally built in 1982 and then had significant improvements with the Crystal Springs project in 1992. But basically, there hasn't been any really, major repairs or replacements or upgrades since 1992, so nearly 30 years. So our treatment improvement project involves adding a sedimentation basin, rehabbing and replacing our filters, rehabbing our clear well, and having some chemical handling processes upgraded. So basically, and with adding a sed basin, for example, that will get us to what the current regulations and standards are in terms of the State Water Resources Control Board, for instance. So we're in the process of design right now. We're finishing up design and we'll be going out to bid in the early part of 2021. Another big project for us has to do with our tanks. And initially we're gonna focus in on the Carter Hill tanks. Our game plan is to replace the tanks with a 3 million gallon or larger concrete tank. The existing tanks were built in the 1950s. Actually, Half Moon Bay 3, this tank I'm pointing to, was built early 1960s. But basically, these are very, very old tanks. They need rehabilitation. What we plan to do is to build a concrete tank. With a concrete tank, we will reduce future maintenance costs. Tanks require recoating every 20 plus years, and with a concrete tank, future maintenance costs are very small. And so we will, we feel we really get a good return on our investment. We will also be looking at our other tanks. We have been, over the last couple of years, looking at a tank plan. Nunes represents our most valuable storage and where we want to focus first on our efforts. We have a number of pipeline replacement projects coming up. One project in particular in the next couple of years is a Grandview pipeline replacement project, which will replace literally 2-inch PVC pipe in the Grandview neighborhood. So it's a high priority project for us. Recent projects that we've done, we've added generators at the Denniston Water Treatment Plant and the Denniston Booster Pump Station for $450,000. These will be operational in early November. We recently did a major project fixing the culverts on the road from the Denniston treatment plant up to the tank. This road was put in nearly 50 years ago and has not had any major maintenance. So this involved replacing a lot of the culverts. It was a significant project for us. We've just finished up, and it really is it's beautiful. I would recommend that all the board members go out and look at this project, because it really is, it's a nice project, and it's one that we all should be proud of. We also have the Stone Dam pipeline replacement project for $1.4 million, where in 2012 we had the pipeline from Pillar-Cetus Reservoir was damaged in a storm. It was a very old pipe. We don't know how old. It was a steel pipe probably, and it was one of the original pipes that brought water down from Pillar-Cetus Reservoir pre-1940s. And so since 2012, water has been delivered via this, a yellow line temporary pipe. So we were finally able to work with San Francisco PUC, go through all the environmental issues, and we replaced that pipeline. So this has really led to giving us some, risk and resiliency in our system. Already, we're seeing the benefits. In August, for example, we were primarily on Pillar-Cetus Reservoir, which is gravity fed. So we did see a significant reduction in our PG&E bill during the month of August.
Good.
Also, in terms of we've done a number of pipeline replacements this past year. We did this Casa del Mar and Grand PRV and pipeline replacement project. We did a project in El Granada, Ferdinand, which is also around $650,000. And we did a number of pump replacements and repairs up at Crystal Springs. I like to show these pictures because they really show what the infrastructure is at Crystal Springs Pump Station, and what it really takes to pump water from the reservoir over the hill to Nunez. It's a very, very significant infrastructure. So, and we're in this infrastructure we're very proud of, but can be costly. So with that, I am, unless you have any questions or comments, I will turn the stage over to Sanjay Gar.
Thank you, Mary. President, board member, staff, and public, I'd like to do our presentation associated with the water rate study. First, of course, I'd love to be there, but as we know, we live in interesting times. So we're doing this virtually. So today, I want to just quickly, just for the sake of the audience, in case anyone watches this later, introduce who we are. Raftellus, we're a firm that specializes in water and wastewater rate studies. I've been doing this I've been in the water industry for 23 years. I started that after I finished the Peace Corps. And I've consulted over 100 different agencies in California and helped a lot of them with these issues. Besides myself, of course, we have Lauren, who's also here on the web. Lauren is basically the modeler. She developed the model, and I always say she's the brains behind it. So she helped me out with all the due diligence, working with Mary, making sure QAQCing all the information. And so we do a lot of these studies, as I mentioned. Next slide.
Hey, Sanjay, 23 years in the business. I guess that explains a little of the gray hair I see there now.
Yeah. Kids also help. And wife. So, she can't hear me, hopefully. So anyway, so now we're going to talk a little bit about the rate study process. And there's a couple of fold. So the first is the framework and understanding what do we want to achieve, what are the goals and objectives. And we did a lot of that in the last time. This one was a little bit more higher level. But we always ask ourselves, what do we want to achieve? What do we want to examine? We did talk a bit about that with Mary. The second step is the financial plan. And that's what we really did in this study, where we looked at the CIP. We looked at different options with funding the CIP. We looked at the cash flow reserves and how do we deal with this. We also took into account sales and how COVID would affect the non-residential, the restaurants, the commercial industry, and also looked at the SFPUC, as a water supply mix. So we take all that into account. It's a very detailed model that's non-proprietary that Mary has a copy of in Excel that, as I mentioned, Lauren developed. The third part is this cost of service and rate design. And that's what we did at the last study. You don't really have to do that. Best practices every 5 years. You could do it every 10 years. We just did it 2 years ago, so there's no need to do that. But that's where we look at the cost structure, look at your business model. And with Prop 218, your business model and your rates need to have a relationship. And nothing significantly has changed 2 years ago. So there was no warrant to do that. And then we get to the last step, which is today, which is the rate adoption, where we've done the public outreach, we develop an administrative record that should be publicly available for people to read, explains the methodology of the financial plan. We send out the notice, the 45-day notice, and then today we have the public hearing. Next slide, please. So I want to go over a little bit of our agenda, study objectives, the history, financial plan, proposed rates, and customer impacts. And then I'll answer questions at the end if that's okay with the board. If there's something burning, then definitely interrupt me and we can talk about it. So the objective of the plan of the study is to develop a financial plan, looking at your expenses, looking at your revenues, and then basically updating the rates and understanding the impacts to your customers. Next slide, please. So the legal environment and setting rates, there's two sides of the coin. The first side is Prop 218 and Proposition 26. Prop 218 is what really governs rates. And there needs to be a rationality, a nexus between that. As we know, we're a government entity, we're not for profit, and so we're not looking at willingness to pay. We're not looking at, like, as in the private sector with a pencil. I should literally look at my iPhone. This is where they really know how to milk us. You know, they look at how much we're willing to pay and then base that, and there's our profit margin. In our world, we look at our cost structure of providing that service and we mirror that. Now, we can have money in the bank for reserves, and that reserves actually benefit our customers because if something goes wrong, we can draw on those reserves. So these reserves stay in this pot to benefit our customers in minimizing rates. And then the next one, other side of the coin, is conservation, a little dynamic there. And we want to also make sure water, as we all know, we live in California, water is a resource that we shouldn't take for granted, especially with the environment changing with climate. And we need to make sure we use that reasonably. And it's actually in our Constitution, Article 10, prohibits waste. States also set different mandates. So we always want to, there's a two-sided coin here. We want to meet these standards. Next slide, please. So the history, as I mentioned, we did do the last comprehensive, what I call cost of service, where we looked at your cost structure in 2018. So in this case, what we're just doing is looking at your increase in cost. And really your cost increases are a couple of folds. The first is, you know, your supply mix. You do have a little bit of a complex system because you have local supply, you have SFPUC, you have treatment costs. So we need to take that into account. Roughly, SFPUC is 62% of your supply mix. You also have increased costs, normally with salary, labor, chemicals. So we want to take that into account. Those two components of your operating budget, we're anticipating to increase by 5% per year. So that's the operating side of the house. Now there's the capital, that's the reinvestment that Mary talked about. That's an aging infrastructure. One of the challenges that a lot of people don't realize is that we're sitting on an asset that's that could be 30, 50 years old. 1982, I know that for me sounds like yesterday, but it is actually almost 40 years ago. And so a lot of these infrastructures are old and they need to be repaired and replaced. And the average cost, we're anticipating is $5 million a year in order to maintain the system. As we all know, water, if you ever visited a country where the tap water wasn't drinkable or not available all the time, we all know how precious this resource is. Next slide. So the financial plan, what we do is we look at your revenues. We take into account non-operating revenues. You have some property tax. We look at all these different sources. We look at your expenses, as I mentioned, your O&M, your CIP, your debt that you have, reserve balances. We look at your financial policies associated with reserves. And then based on all that information, we can develop a financial plan. Next slide. So what we're doing is we're looking at the 2021 budget. We escalate that out. We look at different expenses and costs. And based on that information, what we're proposing is a 5% increase. Now, the board's only considering 2 years of rates, but I am showing you a 5-year schedule here. So the board will revisit this again after 2 years and look and see what needs to happen. So this will be updated. But this is just more of a planning so that you know and the public knows what we anticipate in the future. And, that's a common, one of the challenges in the water industry is there's a lot of cost pressures occurring. And we can go more into that if you're interested, and we can talk about that. But there's a lot of reasons why we're seeing water prices going up much more than CPI. And that's the challenge that we have is to communicate that message and to explain that to people. And if you're interested, we can talk more about that. So the proposed rates with the 5%, as I mentioned, we're just doing a 5% across the board. So these would be the rates that the board is considering to adopt at this public hearing. We have the current rates, and then we have the 5%. This is the fixed charge. The fixed charge is based on meter size. Larger your meter, more ability instantaneously you can use water. For most of the residents in the service area, they're either 5/8, 3/4, or 1 inch. The larger meters tend to be commercial or irrigation or hotels. These are the private fire lines, again, increasing by 5%. Those are if you have a sprinkler for commercial restaurants and hotels. And then these are the tiered rates. Again, they're going up. We have the tier width, 0 to 4, 5 to 8, and 9 and above. We have the unit rates and HCF or CCF, and then they're going up by 5%. So what are the impacts to our customers? So in some sense, your bill will be going up by 5%, but everyone uses a certain different amount. And so what we're doing here is looking at a 5/8 inch meter. You can add, and we have different usages, 3 units, 5 units, 7, 12, 16. Most customers are around 7. So they will see roughly a $5 increase in their bill. Again, depending on if you use a little bit less water, you use 3 units, then it's almost $3. If you use a lot more water and you're having maybe a lush landscape area, then you're more like $12. So that's the first year. And then the second year, we want to be transparent is that then you'll see another increase, and that will be $5.61. If you use 7, if you use 3, it's almost $3. And then again, if you have the lush landscape, it'll be $13. That's my presentation. If the board has any questions, let me know. And if there's the public, I can also answer questions if Mary likes me to.
Thank you. Thank you. Mary? Any directors have? Okay,
we do not have anybody in the public.
Okay. Do any directors have any questions for Sanjay? I see good. Someone stirring.
No, other than to thank him for his help. Other than to thank him for his help once again in preparing a very, very extensive analysis and proposal, which we were able to build our plan on. Thank you.
So you did mention water going up faster than CPI. So talking points when we get cornered in the grocery store. Why are rates going up higher than CPI? What can we tell them?
So there's a couple of reasons. The first reason is that you're managing an old asset, and it's getting to the time, it's called the era of replacement, where you need to now fix that asset. So the metaphor I like to give to people is, remember when you were 16 and your parents gave you a car, maybe they didn't, but you dreamed they did. And you took care of that car, and you're really good, you know, you took care of that car. Now it's 10 years old, or let's say it's 15 now. So 15, 20 years old, you know, it might be time to replace it, or the engine, transmission. And so that's what, you know, we've done a great job in maintaining our assets, but there's significant assets that now need to be replaced. And the transmission needs to be changed. The brakes need to be changed. So that's the first thing. So we're at this era of replacement, we call it. That's actually a term that the EPA stated. The second is water sales have dropped. And the challenge is that we've been selling water, we've been viewing our service as a commodity. And so our cost is this, that's increasing. And we usually divide it by the quantities to get a unit price. Well, the denominator is dropping. So remember, like math, well, if the denominator drops, that means the price has to increase. And so that's our challenge, is that, and you know, and this is the double-sided coin here, because water is a scarce resource. We have the drought, we have all these different things. So we can't tell people to use more water, even though we may want to, because it's a scarce resource. But if people did use more water, then eventually the price would go down, but then we may run out of water. So that's the challenge. So that's why you're paid your $100 or so per diem for these meetings to help us with these challenges. So thank you for your civil duty.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you, Mary.
Was Sanjay offering us a raise? I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't build a raise into our rate structure here.
No, sorry.
Patrick, you know, we try to give ourselves a raise, and Patrick shut it down so fast.
Yeah. We can look at the statutes, and there's ways to do it, but it requires public hearings and all kinds of other things. So I can certainly advise you on that. Hey, just a few housekeeping items to just before we move on to any sort of action. There are no public in attendance. We've already checked that. So at some point, we probably, just for the administrative record, should open the public hearing and close it just as a formality. And the board had the 4 protest letters that were in the agenda packet. But since then, 3 additional protest letters came in. Those will be made available on the website, and those were provided to the board in advance. They just came in today. So we should at least be clear on the record that there's 3 additional. So there's a total of 7 protest letters that the district received. So so with that, whenever it's appropriate, you can move forward to adopting the resolution.
Okay, and before we close, for full disclosure, we're making $150 for these meetings, so I don't think our salaries have much of an impact on our rate structure. Full disclosure. Thank you.
I move we approve the rate, the proposed rate increase as presented.
And that was a resolution. I had it, and I got to find it again.
Would you like me to read it right out of the record, or how would you like me to do it?
Well, only if Denise really wants you to.
Yes, your legal counsel does, and I can help you if you'd like.
That'd be great.
So the motion would be, the staff recommendation is to adopt resolution 2020-04, amending the rate and fee schedule and finding that the amendments are exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act. So
Yeah,
somebody wants to make that
that's
motion.
exactly what I said.
Perfect.
Okay, I'm brave enough to make a second.
I second the motion.
Okay. Denise, please.
Director Feldman,
Yes.
Vice President Reynolds,
Yes.
Director Larimer,
Yes.
Director Carbondale,
Yes.
President Michelson.
Yes, thank you. Okay, thank you.
You have one more motion to do. That is to approve the
budget. O&M budget.
yeah, the budget for 21-22.
I'd be happy to approve the fiscal year 20. Oh, my phone just clicked off. Wait 1 second. I'd be happy to approve. I make a motion we approve the fiscal year 2021/22 operations and maintenance budget as presented.
Second?
I'll
Second it. How about if I second
I'll
it?
second it.
All right, Bob. Yeah, go ahead. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, once again, please, Denise.
Director Feldman,
Yes.
Vice President Reynolds,
Yes.
Director Larimer,
Yes.
Director Coverdale,
Yes.
President Michelson.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Sanjay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Lauren.
Have a great night.
Thanks. Okay.
Thanks, Sanjay.
Our quarterly financial review.
Okay. So we're 3 months into the new year.
Already.
So far, so good. I will say that we actually had a little bit of a windfall in water sales, I think because of the warm weather, but basically residential sales have been up and irrigation has, sales have been up. So we have seen some decreases in agriculture that we expected, and in terms of our hotels and restaurants and things. But it is basically that we saw higher sales than I projected, so that's good news. Expenses are actually under budget. Partially because we have 2 open positions that we haven't filled yet, but also in terms of just in general, I think we have some timing things that come in during the year. So it's hard to, we try to allocate the budget, but we have these timing issues. So, in general, we're in good shape, and we'll see how we, move forward with, as we get into the cooler months. So, and people turn off their sprinklers. So.
That may be a while. I think we're still going to be irrigating for the next month.
Yeah, with her. In terms of our CIP, we've spent 1.1 million to date. So we're moving along at a clip. These were largely projects that were in process this past, going into the new year, including the Denniston generators that I showed you in the Denniston culvert and road replacement. So anyway, so does anybody have any questions for me?
Okay, no inquiring minds out there. Okay, I guess we can move on then.
Okay. So next item, we would like the board to approve a software lease with Laserfish. It's for support, and actually it's with the company Ray Morgan Company. So as you all likely know, if you've been in our office, we are not a paperless environment. We have a lot of file cabinets and full of paper. We also, in terms of our organizational structures on our servers, leave a lot to be desired. It's hard to find things. And, as we move into more of our, digital age, we really need to be working toward being paperless. So we've been investigating alternatives. We worked a little bit with a consultant who had worked with the city of Half Moon Bay. City of Half Moon Bay uses Laserfish. So we feel that this is a good solution for us. Laserfish has a lot of experience in our space and our size of a district. So Yeah, so basically this 5-year agreement covers it, and we'll get 60 hours to help us get set up. So it's basically $839 a month plus tax, so it's $50,340 plus tax over the life of the lease. So, any questions?
So who actually is going to do the scanning?
So what we'll do, so we're going to set up workflows. So as we are doing the work, we would scan.
How about backwards?
What?
Are we going to scan backwards?
Backwards, we have look through our file cabinets. We will have and we have determined our what files need to be scanned first. So like our board resolutions, our meeting minutes, that before they were digital type of thing. So Ray Morgan has a group who also scans. So we will incur additional expenses for scanning as well.
Okay, so that answers my question. Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
I have a question. Mary, will we get rid of that storage facility where we have like 3,498 miles of files?
Well,
the old Iron Mountain?
I'm not sure we can get rid of it, but I think that we will significantly reduce what goes there in the future. So one of the pieces of this whole thing would be to develop a retention policy, or to update our retention policy so that records get tossed when they should get tossed, and records get kept. We have some records that we have to keep forever, but yes, that's the game plan, is to clean that storage place up, because it's expensive too.
How much does it cost us to run that storage space? Significant, isn't it?
Well, I think it's around $600 a month, but plus we have any trips to and from costs us money. So like, I think this month I saw a bill for $1,000. So it's not, it adds up.
Good question. Yeah, well, good. Thank you, Jim.
I have two questions for you, Mary. Will these people be putting our documents into a standard so that if years down the road we want to change vendors, we're not stuck with a proprietary data standard that only works with their system?
Yes. We've checked on that, and yes, we're we own our data and structure, and so we can change in the future.
Is there a national standard or even an international standard on the formats, file structures, like portable document, like PDF?
I'm not sure I can answer that question. I do know that Laserfish, they have a structure within their own software, which I think is fairly consistent with other document management systems. So it is, so.
Yeah. And then my second question is about security. How secure is this system, and what kind of firewall comes with it? And how do we know that only the documents that you want to have in the public record are available on the web, and that there's a barrier so that people can't look at stuff that they should not be looking at?
Well, this system will be on our servers. So first of all, we have the firewall protections with our servers, and we have consulted with our IT consultant on that. In terms of the actual program, we can configure security on who sees the documents, who can touch them, who can update them, and so there's a lot of built-in security from what we've been told. This program is used by a lot of government agencies. So, you know, we feel pretty comfortable about that. The program also has some good, you know, some nice routing features as well for similar to DocuSign. So, yes.
So Mary, you have to create the structured workflow process for our documents. Is that correct?
Correct. And that's
you do that.
I'm sorry. Yeah. And now, and Ray Morgan will company will help us with that. We have 60 hours programmed for that.
Oh, okay. For you to create the structure for your documentation to be stored in that laserfish mode. Pat, I have a technical question separate from this. The stuff we have on the internet, all of our minutes of meetings and all of the associated attachment stuff, are those considered legal public records as well? Is that another source for all of that stuff? I'm just trying to understand.
Yes, so this is your records management system, as I understand it. There are records retention laws that require public agencies to maintain certain types of records for certain periods of time, and those laws will still apply.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, no, we have other copies of these, but not in that format, so to speak. Okay, thanks.
Anyone else? Okay. Willingness to proceed. This is over $50,000. What am I hearing? We're going to need it. We'll need a vote on this as.
I move we approve the general manager to authorize Laserfish for a 5-year period of time to provide software in a lease form and support with Ray Morgan Company. I didn't read it right out of the record. Is that good enough, Denise? Or do you want me to read it directly?
So can I ask a question about that before we vote?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Well, let's get a second first.
Nobody seconded it.
But here's my question. Since this is only $10,000 a year, isn't this within her priorities or her prerogatives in terms of just an administrative cost? It doesn't have to go to the board?
I was looking at the gross amount.
5 years.
Yeah, but it's 5 years. So, but it's only $10,000 this year and $10,000 next year and so on.
But it's a commitment for the full 5 years.
Yeah, but wouldn't she have to do it every year? She'd have to ask for permit. Tell us that every year she'd have to set up another agreement. This is a 5-year agreement.
So, out of abundance of caution, let's proceed to vote, and we then Mary.
We need a second first, right?
Oh, yeah. We have a second. I second it.
Oh, good.
I was hoping that Patrick would answer that question.
And I'm happy to answer. Mary and I talked about that, and it's my recommendation because it's a 5-year contract for a total of $50,000 that exceeds her authority. It was my recommendation that she bring it to the board.
Yeah, and I was operating under that assumption. Okay, thank you. So unless there's anyone else, we can move to a vote, please.
Director Feldman.
Yes.
Vice President Reynolds.
Yes.
Director Larimer.
Yes.
Director Carbondale.
Aye.
President Michelson.
Yes, thank you. Okay, more software.
Yes. So this is another one. It's a 3-year contract. It's an extension for our WaterSmart software. As you are all aware, we implemented WaterSmart 3 years ago with our AMI. And since that time, we have been, I will say our customers really like this software. This is our customer facing web portal. We also are able to monitor leaks with our customers using the software. And over the last 3 years, we have contacted our customers on over 3,000 leaks, which has saved our customers a lot of money. And so we really get a lot of compliments and accolades from our customers with using this system. So we are recommending that we move forward and renew the agreement for another 3 years. So with a total amount of $41,040.
I will move to accept a recommendation and authorize a general manager to extend software service agreement with WaterSmart Software Incorporated for 3 years to 11/7/2023 in the amount of $41,040.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any more discussion? If not, once again, Denise, please. We are...
Director Feldman.
Yes.
Vice President Reynolds.
Yes.
Director Larimer.
Yes.
Director Carperdale.
Yes.
President Michelson.
Yes, thank you. Okay. EKI.
I'm going to let James handle this one.
All right. Thank you, James.
Okay, so as you know, we rebuilt the Denniston Tank Road. Mary had some nice pictures in her presentation. It was not an easy project. We hired EKI to give us some really limited scope support during construction. When we got into the project, we realized that there was a large lot of erosion at the top drain at the very top of the hill. And the existing storm drain that was supposed to be replaced was kind of hanging off the cliff and didn't really have a good place to attach it to. So we reached out to EKI for some support. After a field meeting with them and the contractor and district staff, we decided to bring in BAG Engineering to get some second opinions on how to kind of re-engineer this in the field. It was quite a bit of time for EKI and BAG. So the original contract was for $19,600 for basically engineering support during construction. EKI put in significant hours, so we're looking for an increase of another $29,200. Please keep in mind that about $9,300 of that was for geotech support to help us guide us through the decisions. We went through several renditions of redesigning the project on the fly and finally came to a good economical value engineered solution with the help of the contractor, staff, EKI, and BAG. So it was I think the end result was a really good one, but we do need to come for approval to increase EKI's budget for this project from $19,600 to a total of $48,800. And I really just have to say EKI really came on short notice to help us. I think they did some really good work. I think the contractor was very helpful. We were all patient with each other. It was a tense situation. It was not an easy project. And this road is in excellent shape. Even when they went to do the concrete treated base, due to the slope, they had to dig in the machine an extra 5 inches. So we got some free CTB out of the project because that was the only way that they could do it. So it was a good project. We try to control costs. There are some costs related on the contractor side. To date, we've only approved about $7,000 in a change order. We're still going through the punch list and quantities, and we will let you know where that's going to end up. Hopefully, it's only going to be in the $18,000 range once we add up all the quantities.
18 and 1,000, including the 7? Or addition?
Yeah, that's total, yeah, including the 7.
Yeah, thank you.
So we're in post-construction quantity counting mode, and we'll let you know what that is at the next board meeting. So we're looking for an approval to amend the EKI Environment Water contract for the Denniston Tank Road, do the additional field support. And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer. It looks great. The contractor did a fantastic job.
Good, thank you.
Really good.
Ken, please.
I have a question, James. Can you explain to me a little bit more what the surprise was or what the unforeseen condition was? I mean, you're there working, you're building a road, it's spec'd out, and you all of a sudden you found what? I didn't really understand that.
Yeah, have you been up to the Denniston tank?
Yes.
You know, it's kind of up on a cliff.
Yes.
So if you're standing there with the tank to your right at the top of the road, there's a pretty steep ravine there. and the first storm drain dumps there. And it's been there for 50 years. I think historically, before they had really good SCADA control over Denniston, they would let the tank overflow. They had no other choice. It was that or let it go empty. So this is the beauty of SCADA. So, you know, after interviewing staff and talking about, you know, how this happened, we think most of that is just from overflowing the tank in the old days of the district. We don't do that anymore. And we think that's what caused it rather than storm events on such a small piece of rain collecting land. So what we did is we took the first storm drain, and instead of daylighting it out the hill without any way to anchor it at the bottom without building a road, we connected storm drain 1, we'll call the top one 1, to number 2 in a box, and then found a better place to dump the water on the hillside that won't cause damage. So we couldn't really see it until they started clearing brush and digging at the site. It was so thick, and you can barely stand on the edge of the road and really see it.
And so, but these conditions were there prior to the bid, right? I mean,
right.
There were existing conditions, and people knew the improvements were going to go in those areas.
Right.
So that's, you know, my frustration in it is that I don't feel that it's as reasonable as everyone else does. I understand the problem, I understand the severity, but I also understand that multiple people bid the project, and hopefully they looked at it before they estimated it. So I sort of understand the idea of, gee, we cleared it out and saw more of it, but all of a sudden there's a lot of additional engineering and you know, the consulting geotechnical engineering. And so from my perspective, I'm frustrated by that, because it didn't just double, it more than doubled the cost of the engineering fees that were quoted. So, you know, I appreciate the good job. I'm glad it's done. I hope it rains like heck, and I hope we're all thrilled. But I'm really not pleased about the process, and I'm really not pleased about the cost. And I think that
was EKI the people that did the pre-engineering stuff? I'm sorry. Who should have stumbled on it? I guess if somebody should have stumbled. That was my question, really.
I think
contractor who did it, or EKI who did the preliminary work for it. I'm sorry.
EKI did the design. I think EKI and district staff maybe underestimated what it was going to take and what was at the bottom of that ravine.
Well,
and in hindsight,
I wish I
spent 10 grand to have someone bushwhack so we could see the bottom of each drain.
No, I feel frustrated like Ken in a way. I don't know. It's the change order is bigger than the original cost of engineering. You know, EKI is a good company. They do a lot of work for us. They make things go faster. This is not meant with any disrespect. The question is, they sort of overlooked this, I guess, or somehow it didn't happen. And maybe in a way they should feel somewhat encumbered to give us a little benefit of, you know, the work we're giving to them, and eat a little of it as well, versus us doing it all. That's all. I mean, I'll go wherever way the board wants to go, but that's my opinion. If they took a little of the responsibility, that'd be cool. I think that would be a reasonable thing to ask them, given them the sizable amount of work that we've thrown their way in the last year and a half or so. That's sort of where my head's at. But I'll go with whatever they decide.
Well, I, for one, am disappointed to see BAG involved. We have not had a very positive history with BAG. So I'm really, really, really disappointed that they ever have had the opportunity to work for us again. And if anybody wants to hear the history, I'd be happy to recount it in private someday.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm not big on cost overruns either. They do happen, but I'm not excited about them. Jim?
Well, I'd like to say I walked that hill with James and Mary last year when I was on the committee. The place where they had this nasty discovery was covered with what looked to me like poison oak. I can imagine nobody wanted to walk out there.
I wouldn't go there either.
What was there? So I mean, it was pretty well hidden. I can attest.
I want to make it clear that I'm proud of the crew. I'm proud of the process. I'm proud of the fact that the engineers stepped up. I'm proud of the fact that they found a geoconsultant in a panic because everyone's busy. So, and I plan to pay them. I mean, it's not about that, but I want to make sure that when we hire these people, that we make it clear to them that we expect them to do what it takes. So if somebody has to put on Tyvek and wander into the poison oak to make sure the design is appropriate, I'm sorry, it's a horrible job. But I think they're responsible for it. And if they're not responsible, the next time I see a proposal, my intention is going to be to doubt it. So I don't ever want to doubt it. I want to feel confident that because we're a good employer, because we pay well, because we take care of them, that they're doing the highest standard of work, taking care of us. And when a job's really complicated like that, somebody has to take that seriously up front, because it is. That thing's like a cliff. I've been up there, I understand. But it's just frustrating because I think that sometimes we get into a generous mode, and I think we need to manage our costs carefully for our constituents, especially when we're asking for, you know, a rate increase. So we have cost overruns in our company. Some of them we pay for, some of them we get paid for. I understand the process. I'm a contractor. That's made a living 42 years at it. And I don't like those difficult situations, but I want to be sure that I don't have to doubt those people, because if I do, then I want to have someone else that I don't doubt. And I'm not trying to lecture anybody. Everybody here has as much experience as me, but it frustrates me. And the number's big. You know, to me, it's more than double. So I think if it was 10 grand, or, you know, they had some consulting person for 5 or something like that, it's less than the initial contract. I don't know, I would feel better. And it's not a big number. We spend much more money than that. So, and James, I'm glad you got it done. I hope that it rains like crazy this year, and that road's the only reason you can service the tank and the Denniston. So I'm glad it's done. And I will vote in favor of paying for it. But I feel like you have to voice the truth. And the truth is that I'm not happy about that.
I have a suggestion. How about in the future, if there's a change order, the parties submitting the change order have to come before the board to explain why it is? Because it feels like, you know, James is here making this explanation of something that the board kind of is grumpy that EKI should have seen ahead of time. And they were hired to do it. They're the ones coming at us asking for more money after the fact. Why aren't they here in front of the board making that request? And I think that's a pretty simple statement. And maybe what we do is we punt on this payment now and say, sure, come before the board and, you know, say what you did wrong and why you need more money, and the board will pay you.
No, EKI has no problem coming before us on an annual basis, making sure that they get their contract renewed. And I would agree, maybe they should be coming before us for overruns too, or oversights, which this clearly was. Yeah, so I share everyone's frustration, and yeah, and poor James has to be the bad cop. I would have no problem with subcontractors, engineers coming before us and explaining why they need more money. So yeah, it's a great idea. Mary?
If I will say, my guess is we probably could have gotten John Sutter, but he is kind of on a leave of absence because I think it's, anyway, with a personal, his wife's having a baby. So it's, anyway, so.
He's punished enough.
I thought you were going to say he was in the hospital with poison oak, so he couldn't come before.
That's what Ken's wishing. All right, guys.
Again, if somebody makes a proposal to pay them, personally will go along with paying them, because I like to hold people's money up when they're authorized by our staff.
Right.
That I feel strongly about that, because we don't ever want to be the people that don't pay our bills. I'd love for them to come talk to us about it, but I don't feel like holding up their money necessarily. I just want them to get feedback because it's important. And every time EKI comes before us, I tell them, I don't want change orders. I don't want cost overruns. So I've been clear from day one for years. And so I just want to be sure they hear that. And if they hear that, then I feel satisfied because hopefully they'll work that into their future relationship. So I just want to make it clear. I'm not necessarily in favor of holding back their money.
I think we send them a copy of this tape. Bob?
But something, I'm happy to agree to approve it as long as Jim concurs or commits to let them know about our concerns and our difficulties, and the fact that next time they do this, they will need to appear before us to discuss any future change orders. That's fine.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think there's certainly majority, if not universal agreement. Thank you. Okay.
So if there's a motion, then we can go forward.
Yeah. Okay. Was that, Bob, was that a motion?
I didn't make a motion.
Would you like to?
Not really, but I'll make it since no one else is. As long as it's all right. I'll make a motion. We should pay them for the work they've done, but make sure that hopefully they don't do this in the future without us being aware.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second? Oh, it looks like they're not getting paid. No, I don't hear a second. Okay, moved and seconded. Okay. Denise, I think this may be the last roll call of the night. Oh, Denise, you are on.
I know. Director Feldman.
Yes.
Vice President Reynolds.
Yes.
Director Larimer.
Yes.
Director Carbondale.
Yes.
Vice President Reynolds. President Michelson.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. James, you're up again.
Here I go.
We'll be nicer on this one.
No, I'm sure. Your message is loud and clear. I'll make sure that EKI gets it, and we appreciate your support. The staff has been busy working independently as we continue to do that. We rebuilt the chlorine booster stands at the El Granada tank booster stations. We even had someone build rain shelters for the generator ATSs, so if it's raining, you can get in there without being soaked. We started flushing blow-offs this year. We're waiting to hold off until wintertime to be doing flushing. We wanted to get a head start on it. Replaced 7 hydrants. We are currently on Crystal Springs. We did about a day of Pilarcitos at the beginning of the month until we got notification from the PUC. We wanted to see what's in the Pilarcitos reservoir for our use until it starts raining again. And for planning for emergency purposes, we found out we have 130 acre feet available, which is about a month's worth of supply at 1,000 gallons a minute. Granted, that's not always demand, but they can only give us 1,000 gallons a minute right now. So we decided to get off Pilarcitos and bank that water for safety reasons and for emergency preparedness. As you know, Denniston Tank and Culvert replacement project's near complete. The generators are set. Electrical contractors finishing up some wiring this week. We're doing factory testing and startup on November 9th. Emergency pump for Pilarcitos Dam has been ordered. HDR has been doing a great job with the Nunes project. We got 60% design submittal in. Staff's pleased with their work, and we're looking to have design and big documents ready for November, end of the year. EKI is working on Pine Willow Oak and the Pilarcitos crossings at 90%, the design there, and we were waiting for the CEQA pending the 100%. Prior to this meeting, just a quick update, I sat in on a PG&E YouTube little meeting. Their shutoff that they've kind of talked about for tomorrow night is still not for sure. It's up in the air. They're going to decide tonight and notify people tomorrow. We've already got good notification from our rep, Herb Gong. He's let us know what sites are impacted. It's basically Pillarcitos Canyon, Denniston Canyon, and what was the other site? The El Granada Highlands, excuse me.
Oh. That's me.
But it's still very iffy. As you know, it's up in the air. So that was the message PG&E proposed, and I won't comment on the rest of their stuff. But we're ready if they turn off the power tomorrow.
Hope not.
If you have any questions, I'm here to answer.
Any questions? So that one, you finally got to that one hydrant that I have a picture of in my phone, corner of San Pedro and San Clemente. You needed a shovel just to find it. So thanks for replacing that one.
Certainly. And if anyone else has a hydrant that they don't like the looks of, please let me know. And
no, this one was
schedule.
It was buried under sediment. It sloughed off the embankment there. So good. I'm glad you got to that one.
I'll let the crew know. Thank you.
Anyone else? Oh, I guess we can go into closed session, huh, Patrick?
Yes, it is 11 and the board is going to convene into closed session pursuant to California Government Code